everybody. Today I'm doing a few more projects with the Dee Dee's Deluxe Bead Box, the November 2025 edition. It was called Royal Delft, and it was filled with these beautiful antique silver chandelier components and these blue tower crystals and some rondelle crystals. The inspired by check strand was just beautiful. It was all silver and it was just perfect for like a vintage China themed box. I just loved it. So I want to do a pendant and earring set that just features those chandelier components. And I have to tell you that I completely shifted gears because this main component that was in the box, when I looked at it, I thought, oh, I want to make a bracelet out of that. And I had this design in my head to make some ring beads here and make a multi-strand bracelet coming off of it. But when I started laying everything on my mat, I was just playing with placement on the components, and this is what unfolded for me. Doesn't it look like a vintage lantern, like it's taken the shape of a lantern? And so these gorgeous connectors were in the box, and all that I did is make one component or connector with the rondelle crystals and a little Tibetan spacer, daisy spacer from my stash. And I turned one of these chandelier components upside down, and I can't hold on to it. And so the reason that it's already connected is because before I shared the idea, I wanted to be able to tell you what you would need for here. So these are 4mm jump rings that I made, and one on the top and bottom on that middle connector to the end connector on this upside down just makes that absolutely perfectly. And this is a 1.5mm loop from my one-step looper, and I know that's not a great way for you to see it, but it just hangs perfectly with no buckling or twisting. And then I'm going to embellish further from here. So it's the main chandelier component, one of the little mini ones, and then two of the bar connectors that's going to go for my pendant. And I'm going to use this fancy diamond cut stainless steel, really large jump ring for the bail. So I'm going to just I can go ahead and put that on. And I love these. Like, it is amazing what a fancy jump ring can do for you in your design. There's the opening. They're so heavy duty, and the little diamond cut makes it so that it really looks like a solid ring, like it's been soldered. But I'm just going to put that right through the hole. And what I was thinking when I was looking at this is that if you wanted to make this pendant more romantic, you could wear it like on blue velvet. And if you wanted to make it a little bit more edgy, like a denim or distressed blue leather cord would be really pretty going through there. But I'm going to add some dangles to it. And this is the earring, and it's just absolutely beautiful. It is so fun and flirty, and I'll show you how I make my own ear wires for those of you that are new here that haven't seen that before. But I just popped in the little spacer beads. I basically stole all the spacer beads from the designer strand in the box, and I just pulled a few things from my stash, so I'll show you what they are before I continue. I have my jump ring assortment here. It comes like this with gold and silver, and I don't even know, this might be like 14mm. I don't know. I don't remember what the millimeter sizes are, but you have 4 different sizes or I'm sorry, never mind, 5 different sizes. Oh no, that's another thing that I put in here. 1, 2, 3, 4 different sizes of jump ring, going down to these little 6mm ones. I think that's what they are, eyeballing it. And you have gold and silver to work with, and they're super heavy duty. So they're great if you need to like create an extender chain that's really decorative. You can just link some of them together. So I'll put a link for these in the description box under the video. And then the other thing that I've used a lot of in my projects with this box is this silver Tibetan spacer mix. So I took a couple of these for just adding in just fillers, but there's some large hole ones in here, which are just amazing if you're trying to put like 1mm leather, or even I think this would even house 3mm leather. But there's large hole and smaller hole, and just a beautiful assortment. And it just really makes your designs just come, just turn out great when you have those little things. Like I really needed to have a little presence in here in between those beads. So I'll show you everything that I'm that I'm connecting, but this also is, I switched to gold, and this is like a little bit of a different twist, no pun intended, to the herringbone wrap. And I have pulled in a few little extra things from my stash for this one as well, and I made my own ear wires, and it's just so beautiful. So I'm going to do the other earring with you and do it mirrored, so when I create the other earring, my halo of crystals will be on the opposite side, and that's just going to make those just beautiful. Really simple technique. And I have to tell you guys, what gave me the idea for that was some beads that are on the DD Beads website right now. They're like components that are already put together for you with multiple leaf beads and other things that are encased in a ready-made herringbone wrap, and it's just absolutely beautiful. And that's kind of what gave me the idea to play around with changing up a simple herringbone wrap. Okay, so every single one of my little drops is a ball head pin and a simple loop. And I've already done most of them because it's just the same steps over and over again. And I'm going to just kind of use up the spaces in the chandelier component. I left one connector hole on the chandelier component just empty, and let it be, kind of when you have a filigree or a multi-hole, it kind of looks lacy when you leave one open. And so, I mean, you could fill it, but the one that I left empty is this one right here in the middle. And so I'm going to just attach these little drops that I made with those gorgeous crystal tower beads just to this outer loop. The way that this was connected, this shape that it took, just looked to me like an old-fashioned lantern. So look at that. Isn't that so beautiful? And it's really dangly. So let me show you how I do my little simple loops here. If you're struggling with simple loops, my way might be easy for you. So I've just taken a ball head pin. I have one of the crystals, a spacer, and then one of those tower crystals. And I'm going to come to the top of my bead and just put a bend in it. And then I want these loops to be pretty small because my ball head pins are so fine. So I'm going to stay down near the tip of my plier and bring that wire over my plier. Then I'm going to rotate it, and I'll look at it this way, pull this wire all the way around the barrel, and then from here I can either roll my wrist or move the bead, but what I'm doing is getting the loop right centered on my stack of beads. So the simple loop is basically already formed when you take it away. And then if you take your flat side of your flush cutters and go inside the loop and snip right there, that is where the two wires would meet. So it's slightly open, but it's a simple loop. They're meant to be open and closed. So I'm going to open it the rest of the way and attach it to my upside down component. Well, maybe I am. Get it in there. And just make sure it's closed really well, those simple loops. And then when those two wires are touching, I just get my pliers in there and with a little bit of force, open and close, and so it's work hardened. So look at this gorgeous pendant. That is just absolutely stunning. So you could put this on a silver chain. like I said, I have some distressed blue leather in my stash, and DD Beats has a little section of leather on their website too, but that would make it a little bit more edgy and modern. But some blue velvet ribbon would be gorgeous to make it more romantic. I absolutely love that pendant. I think that is just amazing. It's just really, really pretty. That is my style all the way. I love it. Okay, let's do the matching earring. This is what it looks like. And this is just super simple connecting. This is a piece of 20 gauge wire. That's what I do my ear wires out of. And this is another same piece of that 20 gauge wire. And for me, when I'm doing earrings, I almost always have my simple looper involved in the design. So there's no beads on the wire. So I only need to place my wire past the back cutter. You could put it through the guide hole here, but it makes a cut for you, so you're just wasting that much wire. So I'm going to pull it back so it can do a blunt cut for me. I'm skipping that step with my cutters. And so I've made my loop, and you know, it starts out like that. So I'm just going to pull my wire down and make sure that it's smooth and straight, but I can see that that loop is centered on the wire. And then I just took one of the crystals and put that on my wire. And then I'm going to turn it so that the opening of this loop is at the top, because the one-step looper, put it in here, up to the front jaw. The one-step looper makes the loop always in that upward direction. So this way the opening of my loops will be in the same place on each end of this component, and I'll tell you why that's important. So now it is through the guide hole. It's making a cut. That's a whole nother component, so I'll save that. And then I'm just going to gently pull it down as I'm closing. I have control here, and that is centering my two loops and centering them on the bead. So when I take it out of my tool, that little perfect little component is made, the little connector is made. And so let's get this in here. This is just simple connecting, and I've already created all of the drops the same way that I did the one for the they match. It's just a set. It's just a sweet little earring set. And so the reason I care about my loops being in the same, where the opening is in the same place, is that I'm going to connect everything so that the opening of every loop is to the back of the earring. There's no front or back on these components, so I'm going to determine that with my connecting. I did find that I needed to open my loops a little bit wide to get over the thickness. So I'm going to go ahead and connect that and work harden. So this is now the front of my earring, since my opening is back there, and I'm going to come to this other loop on this side and open it and add in the connector bar. And work harden. And now it is ready for my drops. So I'll do my longest one, my center one first. I'm going to open that simple loop. So this is going to go toward the back of the earring. So when this is all connected, my earring will be very professional, and it just takes on the quality of fine jewelry, like from a jewelry store. Because when I hold this up and it's on the ear wire, everything is seamless and just beautiful. So I'm going to connect my other two in that same way, opening of the simple loop to the back. Look at that. It's simple, but it's fancy at the same time. I don't know how that's possible, but I guess two things can be true at once. Okay, so I'm going to get my 1.5 millimeter one-step looper in the game again, and just take a little piece of 20 gauge wire, and again just pass the back jaw, since there are no beads on there, and get that first simple loop in there and get it centered on the wire. And then I use, most of the time, I use my 6-step bail making plier, and I really like this largest step. And so I'm going to put my ear wire in there so that the opening of the loop is going to be on the inside of my bend. And just make sure that everything is straight and lined up before I wrap the wire around the mandrel, and just about as far as I want to go. So basically my ear wire is already formed, and then I usually use the end of the loop and go a little bit past that to make my trim. And then I take my flat nose plier and just line it up with the end of the flat nose plier, just like that, and kick that out. And then I have the opening of my loop on the inside, so I'm going to reach inside and open that loop like a jump ring, twisting it to the side, place my earring on, so all the openings of my loop all the openings of my earring are now on the back side. And I really like making these really simple ear wires for a design that's a little bit busy, a little bit ornate. You know, there's a little bit of busyness and a lot of movement to this, so a really simple ear wire is just perfect for this kind of a design. And then you can use a buffing block, you can use a metal nail file, you can use the file that comes in the set of reamers that is always linked in my description box. My returning friends know that I pull that out all the time, but my favorite is the wire rounder attachment on this battery operated bead reamer, and I just go around a few times. The wire fits in this little cup here, and it's such a professional finish. If you feel anything slightly sharp where you've made a cut, that just smooths it right out in the most professional way. And so this gorgeous set literally is done. I mean, it's just such a beautiful, elegant, romantic, but this could also be like really kind of boho, busy, depending on what you put with it. But what a gorgeous earring pendant set. I just love it. Okay, we're going to do this one next. And so what I did on this one, I have these splayed head pins, so it's just hammered, like the wire is just hammered and flattened on the end. And let me just show you what it would do. That actually becomes like the ball or the head of the pin because it's hammered out, and you can very easily make these. Mine are commercially done, so you could very easily make these, and you could go up to 18 gauge wire, and that would give you a little bit more of a splayed head pin. And then I just have this little jeweler's punch. It's really small, and before I do anything else, let me show you where I'm going with this. I want to punch a tiny little hole in the end of that splaying. So I'm going to be really slow and careful and put my hole punch in the middle. There's not a lot of room here, so if you're not careful, you'll not have a hole in the middle. You'll actually break off your paddle. So I think right about there, and I'm just going to carefully punch through. And just sometimes that little hole punch will remove the little piece of metal, and sometimes I have to snip it off, but that gives me a connector spot. Just going to flatten it out because it bent a little bit, but that gives me a little connecting spot for my dangle. Okay, and then I used my Softflex 24 gauge craft wire. It's got an anti-tarnish coating on it, and it's soft wire, and I took 14 inches. That was just about perfect for the amount of wrapping that I need to do. You can always give yourself extra if you think you might want to add some extra wraps into your design. And I'm going to start by putting my wire over my end of my head pin. Smooth it out a little bit. So I'm going to start by putting my wire there and putting my thumb and my forefinger over it as tightly as I can and get some wraps in here. I know that I'm covering up basically what I'm doing, but do this however you need to get those wraps in. And for me, I don't worry about how tight they are because I will grab my nylon jaw pliers or even the back of your bent chain nose pliers and just pull them together. Just like that. And I didn't count, but you could count how many wraps so that you're certain that both earrings will be exactly the same. I didn't do that. You guys that have been here before, you know that I tend to eyeball those kind of things. And you know, if you've been making jewelry as long as I have, you kind of have a sense of what you need to do. And so again, I'm gonna just, you know, make those wraps neat. Tuck where I've cut and pull these together, and also get them down to the end, just pushing everything down to the end. And I'm going to pull my wire out here and make sure that it's smooth. I put a few little bends when I was wrapping. And I've got my splayed paddle with my hole facing forward, and you're going to wrap right on top of these. So don't stress too much about them, but I'm flattening them onto my head pin so that they're nice and tight before my bead goes on. Then I'm going to put this beautiful faceted blue spot jasper rectangle bead on my wire. I absolutely loved these beads. So I'm going to put that on my wire. And this is going to start out like regular herringbone. I'm going to come up the side and put my thumb over. I'm going to put my thumb over that work, and then I'm going to go on top of this. I have to turn I'm doing this one mirrored to the other one. So I'm going to turn it this way so that I'm looking at the opposite side. Okay, I have in my head which side I'm putting my beads on, so it probably doesn't look like the opposite side to you just yet. But so I'm just going to get a hold of it. And if you've ever done herringbone, you know that this first little bit is a little bit tricky, but once you get it going, it's very stable. So I'm going to bring this wire on top of my head pin, and I'm going to go around the back and back around to the front and pull it tight if you can. You can pause at any time. You can pause at any time, like I just did, to, you know, make things neat and tidy. And then I'm going to just rotate my work and come down the side, the other side of my bead, holding it with my thumb and finger. And I'm going to be wrapping on top of those first wraps. So I'm going to go on top and go around to the back and back around to the front. So now I'm in position to go up the side of my bead. If it's a little loose or if your first wrap comes off, you can just gently pull it back over the bead. Okay, so it looks like that. And now I'm going to string on 6 crystals on this side. So my two earrings will be mirrored. I'm going to get those 6 crystals on here. It's long because I've only done a couple of wraps, so just, manage it and get the crystals on. Okay, so just let those drop down, get everything nice and straight, and I'm just going to make a little curve, like a little half circle, a little halo, just kind of directing that up to the top of my bead. Push all those crystals in place. When it looks good, my wrapping wire is on top of my ear wire, and I'm going to wrap behind and back around to the front again. And again, if you need to pause to tidy anything up or straighten anything, you can. Okay, and now from here, I'm just going to keep rotating my work, and if I have put any bends in my wire before I go down the next side, I'm just going to smooth that out. And now on this side, I go behind that first wrap that I did, but I'm coming on top of my other wraps that I've done, and again behind and back around to the front, and get behind your crystals, and just keep rotating your work so that the wrapping is easy for you. And on this side, the same, behind the first wrap, and on top of the head pin and back around to the front. Smooth your wire if you need to. Down behind the existing wraps, on top, go behind and back around to the front, and just keep rotating your work. And let me see how many wraps I got on this one. 1, 2, 3, I got 4 on that earring. So I want to match my earring. So I'm going to get this wire behind and on top, behind and back to the front. And don't forget, if you want to push your wraps together a little bit, you can do that. The other thing that I do is put my nylon jaw plier over everything, and then with another plier on my head pin is just pull, and that tightens everything up really well. If you didn't have the hand strength to do it, it just pushes everything down and tightens everything. So this is my 4th wrap. This will be my last one. I'm going to rotate my work because I'm right hand dominant, so the wrapping is easier on my right hand. So I'm going to go down behind what I've done, on top of my existing wraps, and back around to the front. And I want to end up here at the top on this particular one, because with my extra wire I wrapped on top of the head pin just to make it chunkier and just to really like decorate the head pin. So I want to end up back up here on the top like that, and then I'm going to take my extra wire and just wrap. And match my other earring. That looks great. So I'm just going to snip that off. And from here, before we go on, you can tidy up, tuck where you've cut. If you need to push your wraps down a little bit, I tend to do that. And like I said, your nylon jaw pliers and using another pair of pliers will give you a little strength. And I see that I have a little bit of a bend here. Sometimes that happens when you're wrapping, but it's nice and straight. And so now I'm going to come back in with my 1-step looper, and I'm going to put my head pin in there so that the wraps, the top of the wraps, are right at the front jaw. That's what I did on my other one, and it's making that cut. It makes my loop. I'm going to pull my earring down, pull everything down as I'm closing, and this gives me a chance to make sure everything's straight and lined up. And so that little earring is ready to go. And I'm going to go ahead and just, make sure my loop is closed and work hardened. And then this can get popped onto my ear wire, my handmade ear wire. I did the gold exactly the same way that I did the silver. And the last thing is this little drop that I created, just a fun little bead pattern, an 8/0 seed bead, a gold disc that matches the silver ones that were in the box, one of the crystal tower beads. And isn't it amazing how a little 8/0 seed bead just tops off? I don't like to see the raw cut on the crystal. And then I'll do this simple loop just by hand. I'm just going to come in here with my pliers and put a bend and put my round nose pliers right around that bend. Wrap this over the top, rotate, bring this around. And I just take a second at this point to make sure that my loop is straight and everything is straight while it's in the plier. For me, it's just easier. This is an easy way to get simple loops in there, and I'm going to come inside and snip. And now I'm going to open that loop and add it to the little hole that we created. And again, the opening to the back of my earring, the opening of my simple loop. Close it, work harden it, and look at that. Isn't that the most gorgeous earring? I just love these. I think these are so cool. They're asymmetrical, they're denim friendly. Look at that. They are just so fun and fabulous. I absolutely love those. So I hope this gave you some ideas with the Dee Dee's Deluxe Bead Box. Mark your calendars because the December edition goes for sale on the 12th of the month. So whenever you want to try to get it, because this is not a subscription box, it's first come first serve, so you really don't want to delay by a few days because it does sell out. But everyone's standing a good chance of purchasing the box now without it being sold out, because Stella, the founder of Dee Dee Beads, has recently increased her quantity that's available. So if you've tried to get this box in the past and it was sold out, I hope you'll give it a try again. You will never be disappointed in this box. She is amazing at curating her beads and putting things in that you really need to make beautiful jewelry. It's effortless. Like I said, I started out with a little bit more of a complicated design, but when I started to play with what she had put in the box, it just, what I wanted to do just unfolded, and all of her boxes are that way. I thank you so much for watching. I do have a discount code for Dee Dee Beads. It does not work on the Dee Dee's Deluxe Bead Box and some other things on the website, but it's for new customers to introduce you to her beautiful boutique website. And it works on a lot, but there's a few things that are exempt from the discount, but that code will be in the description box. Thanks a lot, everybody. See you in the next video.